Welcome to Walking with Jesus Bible Study. We're going to be in the book of John, chapter 7, verses 30 and 31. 30. Then they sought to take him, but no man laid hands on him because his hour was not come. 31. And many of the people believed on him and said, When Christ cometh, he will do more miracles than these which this man hath done. And I'm going to repeat those. 30. Then they sought to take him, but no man laid hands on him because it was not his hour. His hour was not yet come. 31. And many of the people believed on him and said, When Christ cometh, will he do more miracles than these which this man has done? Though the Pharisees sought to arrest Jesus, they could not yet, for it was not his time. It was not appointed by the Father for Jesus to die, because God was not done with him yet. He still had to do the things that God had asked him to do. And before Pilate arrested him, Pilate could not have no authority over him to crucify him, except that if God had given him permission to do so. Now, I just said that in my last video, that God gives him the permission to do whatever is to be done. So therefore, nobody did anything unless God allowed it. And just right here, this proves in this verse right here that they sought to take him, but it was not yet his time, because his time has not yet come. Multiple times throughout the scriptures, it says where they went to go and stone Jesus. But he got away, for his time has yet not come. He still had to do many things. They had prophesied about him, and the prophets did in the Old Testament, telling what the Messiah was coming and what he was going to do. That Jesus had to fulfill those prophecies. So it don't matter what the evil and what the enemy had planned and wanted to do, if it didn't line up with God's will, it wasn't going to happen. Just like in our lives. If it's not aligned up with God's will, it's not going to come out the way that we think. It's not going to happen the way we think. Why? Because it wasn't God's will. And too many times we are sitting here praying for to have this thing and to have that thing. And then we're sitting here thinking that God hasn't answered the prayer. Well, it didn't line up with God's will. A lot of times he does answer those prayers. And then the things don't turn out quite the way we wanted them or quite the way we hoped. And what we had dreamed of they was going to be. And why was that? Because you didn't ask for God's will. You didn't line up your plans and your wants for what was the will of God. And he gave you what you wanted because he answered prayers like that. But maybe he was trying to show you, maybe you should have gone more in your prayers of what was lined up with what I had for you. For the things that he has for us is way better than we could ever imagine. So a lot of times those jobs that we are praying for may not be the jobs that God had for us. That when we start seeking and start praying and asking him what is his will, what does he have planned for us, man, how things would just line up. Things would just go our way. And it would just seem like a piece of cake. Now, it doesn't mean that while you're doing God's will, that everything will go, every day will be a piece of cake. For we are God's children. We are made to suffer until we are called into him. Jesus came and he suffered. We have to suffer as well. Because this life is not going to be easy. It's going to be made for you to come and seek God, to seek him for help during all the rough times. Crawl out to him. Not every time is it always going to be a hard line of suffering. Not everybody's going to have a very hard life. Everybody's life is going to be different. There's going to be people who are going to have more money than some people. There's going to be people who's going to be very poor. It's not up for us to decide which life we get. That is God's plan. It is God's plan for us, for each one of us that He had made. When He created us, He had a plan for us. We got to learn to be content with what we have and with the life that He had given us. We cannot be concerned. We cannot be comparing ourselves to other people just because other people have it better. We shouldn't be comparing ourselves to somebody who has more money than us and think that they are better. For one person is not better than the other just because they have more money. You cannot understand. Your thoughts are not God's thoughts. Some people think that they'll be very great with money, and they don't realize that they would be they're not made to have money. For as soon as they would get it, they would lose it all. So some people were not made to have money because their personality, the way that they are, and the way they have not matured enough in their life that they wouldn't be able to handle such things. Maybe the people could not handle that money because it would keep them further away from God. Sometimes God keeps us in certain situations because it keeps us close to Him. That if we was to get certain things that we had asked for, that we would no longer seek Him for help, that we would no longer come to Him, that we would no longer have Him in our lives. And so therefore God is not answering your prayer because He wants to keep you close to Him. Because He knows if He was to give you that answer, that you would no longer come and seek Him. And He loves you so much that He still wants you to be in His life. But a lot of people cannot understand that. A lot of people cannot see that. All they see is, well, that person has more money and I do not. And how is that fair? Life isn't fair. The scriptures never said it was going to be fair. We have to take each day as it comes. We got to take each thing in a thankful attitude. We got to be grateful and we got to be thankful for all things, whether we like it or not. One of the gates in heaven is a thankful gate. Are you going to be able to get through that gate? Have you been thankful for enough to make it through that thankful gate? Why would it say so in the scriptures that there is a gate of thanksgiving? Are you going to be able to walk through that gate? How thankful in your life are you? There's so many people that's not thankful at all. They just complain and complain. And the first generations that was took out of the land of Egypt, they was not thankful at all. In fact, they complained and complained. So many times that God said none of y'all would see. None of y'all will get the land of milk and honey. None of y'all will get any rewards because y'all cannot be grateful. Y'all cannot be thankful. Y'all rather go back into slavery. Y'all had no trust. They had no trust and no faith in God. Even though He did all these things. Constantly they were saying, well, would you put us all the way out here for us to die of thirst? After He does provided them with certain things and with manna and then led them to this part over here in this wilderness, and then because they didn't have no water, now they went and complained, why would you take us all this way just to kill us? I mean, they literally had no faith. They had no trust in God, even though God kept showing them continuously who He was and what He can do and what He did for them and how much He loved them. So they didn't care. They was greedy people, not grateful. They couldn't be content with what they had. And so our lives today is showing a reflection of just how those Israels were acting. And if anybody's anybody and read the story, and every time they read it, it just tells them, man, these people were just so ungrateful, and all they did was complain. So we need to pay attention. Is that how we're acting? Make sure you're not talking about yourself.